So y'all know that I'm not a big fan of Kamala Harris. I'm not a big fan of how they operate over there, and I'm definitely not a big fan of her VP pick. He's honestly a jackass. But honestly, I think there's one thing that I think just kind of makes you just morally a horrible person, and it's saying something that you've done when you just haven't done it, especially something that people take honor in. And one of those things is stolen valor. You saying that you either served when you didn't, wearing an army uniform around when you were never in, or even saying that you were certain things within the military or have done certain things within the military when you didn't. That wasn't your job. And that's what we have today. And it's none other than Kamala's VP. Imagine that. Now, just to recap, this is the guy who allowed BLM to completely destroy Kenosha, Minnesota in general. He was the governor. In fact, one of the mayors in Minnesota requested the National Guard, and Tim Walz, Kamala's VP, said no, ignored.
Mayor Jacob Fry has consistently said what he told us on June 2nd.
I will speak the truth. And the truth is that on Wednesday, around 6 p.m., I called the governor and asked for the National Guard.
Text messages and emails from the mayor's office for Wednesday, May 27th back that up.
I don't know about you, but that sounds like a person who has zero pride in country, zero pride in where they live. It's just the craziest thing. It's like you inviting some people into your house and saying, please destroy my house, destroy everything I own while I watch. I'm not going to call the cops. I'm not going to pull a gun out. You just destroy everything I own because something happened to somebody.
As a Marine who served his country in uniform, when the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go. I also think it's dishonest. Something, again, if you guys ever get an opportunity to ask Tim Walz or Kamala Harris some questions, he made this interesting comment that the Kamala Harris campaign put out there, and I bet they're regretting they put it out there now, because he said that and he was making a point about gun control, he said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not.
Yeah, it's pretty shameful. Now, I have the clip of when he actually said this, and it was during some kind of convention. Looked like maybe there was 100 people there. And just to give some context here, Tim Walz has not always been pro-gun control. He's a part of the NRA for a while, but apparently as soon as the Las Vegas massacre happened, that's when he switched.
I'm going to make note of this. You are not getting off the hook at the next election if you vote no on this. You are not getting off the hook about us coming out there and making the case that 92% of people, and I don't even care in the most conservative of districts, it's well over 60% of people know this. You are not going to frame this that this is taking your guns, because I'm going to frame it that you're not sticking up for our children, that you're not doing things that, for goodness sakes.
So I want everybody to ask themselves a simple question. Do you think anybody in the world should be able to look up where you live, your address, your phone numbers, your relatives, your associates, even your emails? My answer is a gigantic no. Privacy is something that I think isn't valued enough nowadays. And it's why I'm honored to have Delete Me on this channel and sponsoring this video. I've been using their service personally for about 5 months, and they have pretty much removed me from all listing sites. They make opt-out requests on your behalf to data brokers. I just got my last report in. I'm essentially on none of these websites anymore. And they do it all for an extremely low price. So Delete Me is giving you the same deal they gave me. There's going to be a linking code below the video. Go make sure your privacy is protected. Here he is saying that he carried these weapons of war in war when he never went to war.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
So, depending on who you ask, this is 100% stolen valor. So, arrest him, charge him. I mean, it's on video. Can't argue with it. But I think just as important, this guy is Kamala's VP. This isn't some random guy on the street trying to get a free meal by using stolen valor. This is potentially the vice president of the country. It's a long shot, but he's Kamala's running mate.
And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war.
I don't know, man. There are a lot of people who have died in service. There are a lot of people who are missing legs, arms, eyes, any kind of body part you can think because of service. There are people who are mentally screwed up because of service. And no, most of the time it's not just from going to boot camp. No, most of the time it's not just from working on an airplane or a vehicle or working some IT job within the military. Most of the time it's because they were actually in combat, actually in war. So all those people who were there, especially the people who got screwed up during it, you're taking that and you're removing a lot of the value. I mean, how do you honestly sit there and say something like that? If you weren't in war, and that came up so naturally, oh, the weapons that I carried in war, that means that you've been lying about it for a long time. How many times have you said this? Oh no, we need to ban the weapons that I carried in war. Really? Oh, you carried a semi-automatic AR-15 in war? Even if you did go to war, what gun would you have carried? It sure as hell wouldn't be what's on my wall. You're not carrying a semi-automatic AR. Those aren't issued. So what the fuck are you talking about, man? See, this is the thing. They are so desperate to disarm America that they'll sit there and commit stolen valor just to promote it along. And the stolen valor, it's not even correct. That's the stupid part of this. Weapon I carried in war. So you're the one guy out there with a semi-automatic AR? It's cool, guys. I brought it from home. You guys can all have automatic. I'll have semi just because, I don't know. It's too unfair to the enemy if I have an automatic weapon. Here's what I think should happen. One, I think this guy should go out and make a public apology to anyone who has ever served, especially to the people whose lives have been changed forever by getting hurt or dying. Secondly, I think you should just turn yourself in. Have some honor. If you could not be honorable about your military service and be honest and say, this is what I did, I left all my guys before they got deployed because I wanted to be a senator or I wanted to be governor. Be honest. You can still have honor. Walk your ass into a police station and say, I have committed stolen valor and I've done it more than once, because this is the only one we have on video. I don't know, this makes me sick because our government sure as hell doesn't take care of our veterans. We're giving money overseas. We're shelling out money wherever while veterans here are struggling. And then on top of it, we potentially have a vice president of this country who just is committing stolen valor just to promote gun control.